Well, we got another episode of Young Justice, and this one was emotional. Following last week's tragic ending, we kicked off another story arc, and I gotta say, it's good to be back home. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about episode 5 of Phantoms. Now, before we dive in though, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. Also, the big giveaway. We're going to give away a PlayStation 5 at 25,000 subscribers. All you need to do to get in on the giveaway is be a subscriber and leave us a comment. Also, while you're at it, check out the Buy Me a Comic link down below. It's a pretty cool way to support this channel with just a tiny bit of pocket change, all while creating zero new obligations for yourself. We really appreciate it. Well, it appears we are into the second big storyline of Season 4 of Young Justice. The latest episode is entitled Tale of Two Sisters, and it's not a bad episode at all. Now, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. That's how we do things here. We don't want to ruin it for you, but we will talk a little bit about the show, what happened, and what's going on, so if you haven't watched it yet, I still recommend you pop over, give it a view, and then come back. Now, obviously, at the end of episode 4, Involuntary, we seem to have a major tragedy hit the team, and this episode does dig into that just a little bit. During the trailer, we actually see Artemis in tears, and that is after she finds out about Connor. We actually get to see some more of the original team members for the first time this season while sharing this news, and although it was good to see those characters, this aspect of the show was really sad. Now, the story does take off in a new direction, and we'll get to that in a second. But I do want to say the credits for this episode were just simply painful. It ties directly to the loss of Connor, and quite honestly, based on how all of this felt, it really does feel, at least for now, Connor is gone. Now, the story itself for this week's episode I really loved. We finally got to dig back into several Earthbound characters, and the team up that we saw was excellent. We got a lot of several characters we haven't gotten in a while, and probably the most screen time for characters from last season than they got in the entire previous season, especially for Arrowette, Spoiler, and Orphan. Now, the story and action for this episode were pretty excellent. We also got some flashback scenes to a pretty iconic character from Season 3 that we were teased with, that fans have a ton of expectations on, and we do expect he may come back. Jason Todd. And we also got a little bit of another rather young hero who's a couple of years away from suiting up, but I know fans will be interested in. Now, our predictions for this episode were pretty spot on. Artemis and Jade are front and center, and their ongoing story and drama is clearly going to be a continued part of this story arc. We did get a lot more history of both characters, things we didn't know, and it seems to continue on this character-focused season that many people were pretty excited for. Now, we have about a week to wait for the next episode, and this episode was clearly the first in probably another 4-chapter story arc, so I am super curious on where they're going. It was pretty nice to return to Earth. There's no more telepathy, so we actually got to see people talk, which was great, and everything else on this episode held up. The voice cast was spectacular as usual, but the action segments in this episode were probably what really stood out. The use of Studio Mirror and their animation talents shined, and I gotta say, I had a pretty good time. Overall, this was actually my favorite episode so far this season, so I'm going to give it an 8.5. I can't wait to see what next week brings us, and this grouping of characters are some of my favorite on the show, so more of them is only a good thing. What do you guys think? How did you feel about this week's episode of Young Justice Phantoms? And what did you think of that credit scene? Did it seem to confirm to you that Connor is gone? Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you press like, click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you're not going to get any updates. Peace.